who helped to put this webinar together. As Stephanie mentioned, my name is Janine Davis, Small Business Consultant with the Nashville Area Chamber of Commerce, and thank you for joining us for this webinar entitled What the CARES Act and the Paycheck Protection Program Means for Your Business. Again, this webinar is co-hosted by the Nashville Area Chamber of Commerce, Nashville Entrepreneur Center, U.S. Congressman Jim Cooper's office, the Nashville Mayor's office, Pathway Lending, Pinnacle Financial Partners, and the U.S. Small Business Administration. In addition, we are grateful for all of our presenters, and you will hear more about them and from them in just a few moments. Our webinar is being recorded, and a recorded version of this webinar will be made available. A web link will be emailed to you and at the conclusion of today's session. We'd love to also hear from you. If you have questions throughout the presentation, please use the chat window. We will be watching our chat box and answering your questions as we can throughout the presentation, but we will also have a Q&A time at the end of the webinar. When our Q&A opens, we will acknowledge your question and ask the appropriate presenter to respond. Now, just a few housekeeping rules as we have a successful webinar. If you have not already, please mute yourself and disable your video sharing. Only presenters will be unmuted. For those of you joining us, welcome to today's session. And now I would like to introduce Ralph Schultz, the President and CEO of the Nashville Area Chamber of Commerce.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. These webinars have become very popular, and we love to see all the repeat business at these webinars that we're getting. I like to begin these conversations by just telling everyone that as we look out into the future and economic recovery from the current circumstance, I think people are well aware that Nashville, which has had experience in recovering from economic adversity, has a number of advantages going forward. As a diverse economy with a lot of balance in our economy, with a strong entrepreneur and small business community, and with Nashville remaining a very desirable place to be and do business, we can definitely see some advantages looking forward at economic recovery that are being noted, I think, in national publications from the Brookings Institution and other places. But we know that your economy is the most important economy to you, and we know that that survival and prosperity that you will experience is going to rely heavily on your adaptation and your to the circumstances and the initiative you take in your business. So we want you to be able to take advantage of the resources that are available to you to be able to stabilize your business and grow your business in the future. As we've assessed your needs as stated by you, we are seeking to inform you. We hope this webinar is going to help fuel your access and use of CARES Act resources. So thanks to all of you for your persistence with your business. It means a lot to the community. It means a lot to your employees. It means a lot to all of us that you are showing the initiative and you are persistent in creating success for your business. At this point, I'd like to introduce Jane Allen, the CEO of the Entrepreneur Center. We work very closely with her, and we are pleased to be partners with her and all the other people that you see listed on the screen. So Jane, take it away. I'm going to mute.
All right. Thank you, Ralph, and thank you to everyone. And as Ralph said, I am Jane Allen, and I am the CEO of the Nashville Entrepreneur Center, which is a 501c3 organization here in Nashville. We've been here for approximately 10 years, and I've been in this role for approximately 6 months. Now, that being said, we are here to make sure that we provide resources to the entrepreneurial community to help increase the probability of success. The last few weeks, we've learned that we're all in a disruption, and we're all at a point where innovation and forward thinking has never been more critical. Quite candidly, when I look back at my life as an entrepreneur, it was after September 11th that our company definitely pivoted, and then after 2008. So while it was terrible and sometimes scary going through those times, I do think we came out stronger and better. And that is the goal for each and every one of you. So I really appreciate the partnership. And I do agree with what Ralph says. I think Nashville is a very unique place in that people truly do work together. We partner together, there's collaboration. And I believe entrepreneur and small business is in the DNA of this city, which has helped make it what it is today. So at the EC, we're trying to listen to the needs. We're trying to provide opportunities for entrepreneurs to get answers to questions they need, things such as this webinar. In addition, we have other webinars that are open to the entire entrepreneurial community, everything from CARES Act to how to pivot and other things that we are listening and responding with topics that we believe and that the entrepreneurial community are letting us know they would like to hear. In addition, we have mentors and advisors. We have Advisor Tuesday set up where people actually talk to advisors in our community to answer specific questions. And if any of you all would like more information, if you're not already connected to the Entrepreneur Center, our website, please go to or feel free just to contact me. So all of this to say thank you so much. We appreciate everything that you all are doing, and we hope to be meeting with you in person in the very near future. Thank you.
Thank you so much for all of the resources that the Entrepreneur Center is providing. Now we're going to hear from Congressman Jim Cooper.
Thank you, Jane and Ralph and Janine. The CARES Act, the subject of today's webinar, is the biggest single relief bill, the biggest expansion of government in U.S. history. It's $2.2 trillion, that can be leveraged up to $4 to $6 trillion, not even counting the Federal Reserve's extraordinary market interventions of also many trillions of dollars. Now, what matters is your balance sheet and your income statement. But this federal intervention actually makes the New Deal, the Marshall Plan, and the Great Society look small. And this is just a prelude, believe it or not, to the CARES 2 Act, which is predicted to come in the next few weeks, and other smaller relief efforts, such as the $250 billion that the U.S. Senate had a vote on today to add actually more funds to the small business programs that we're going to talk about in this webinar. I think it's kind of a miracle that one of the most partisan Congresses in history could pass the CARE Act weeks ago and almost unanimously. Of course, much of the act is still being implemented, such as the PPP program that was rolled out just last Friday by commercial banks. Future relief bills will probably be harder to pass because partisanship, lobbying, and greed are all likely to return, especially once the coronavirus seems to fade. The relief aid is divided in the CARES Act between large and small businesses, with a typical dividing line of 500 employees, although standards vary by industry. For example, large hotel and restaurant chains got classified in the CARES Act as small businesses under the law. And I'll focus my remarks today on true small businesses. The CARES Act aims to keep, first, as many people as possible employed, including the self-employed, in order to prevent layoffs. Second, the goal of the CARES Act is if people have already been laid off, the incentive is to get them rehired. And finally, if people cannot be rehired, then there's a generous unemployment benefit for them, including for independent contractors. Now, keeping people on the job is priority one, and there are two main programs in the CARES Act to do that. The first is directed at preserving payroll, and this is kind of a first in American history. The second is focused on working capital. The first program is the brand new Paycheck Protection Program, or PPP, and that's going to be administered through your existing bank. And the second is the tried and true Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, or EIDL, and that's administered by the SBA. Now, right now, there's a bottleneck getting the loan applications in for either program and getting the funding out. But the terms of these loans are unbelievably favorable. Many are really grants, and those that aren't are on a delayed payment and super low interest rate basis. The terms are also super favorable to banks themselves with 100% federal guarantee, much simpler paperwork, and easy offloading the loan into the secondary market. So don't forget about the traditional EIDL program, the Working Capital Loan Program, because SBA is ready to handle those and is already thoroughly familiar with the process. And remember, you can apply for both PPP and EIDL loans at the same time. Some people have asked me about their business interruption insurance, but the CARES Act essentially socializes that risk, whether you had private coverage or not, because private coverage often involves or hinges on physical damage. There are many, many other aspects of the CARES Act and the two previous COVID bills that Congress passed before the CARES Act, namely the $8.3 billion Testing Act and the $100 billion Act for test financing and for paid family medical leave so the workers did not have to come to work sick. As the Nashville area Congressman, my able staff and I are ready to help you with any questions you've got and any input you want me to get about upcoming legislation. I've heard from countless people already, and I'd be delighted to hear from you. My personal cell phone number is 615-714-1719. Again, my personal cell phone number is 615-714-1719. If it's not urgent and you just want to call the office, that's 615-736-5295. But I would be delighted to hear from you personally. Thank you, and I'll turn it back over to the program.
Thank you, Congressman Cooper. Next up, we have Ms. LaTanya Channel with SBA.
Hello, everyone. This is LaTanya. Good to see you again. For those of us who've joined the prior webinars that the Chamber's been doing in partnership with the Entrepreneur Center and SBA. Once again, I just want to thank the Chamber for your full support of small business, which of course is where I live day to day. And that's my job, to make sure small businesses get access to the resources that they need. Congressman Cooper has already given you some information on the resources that SBA has been providing as a result of the CARES Act. And I'll just briefly go over them. I'm not going to go into all the details of those programs that came out of the CARES Act, because the reason why we have the lenders on the line today is because those are the folks, particularly as it relates to PPP, that you need to be getting your direct information from. So for those who aren't aware, on a normal day, when we don't have a disaster, whether it's the tornado disaster that occurred or the COVID-19 current disaster, which is how we view it as far as the relief that we're providing to small businesses, we have several loan programs that are available to small businesses. Our primary loan program is called a 7A loan program, where you work with an individual banker who gets a government guarantee from SBA to provide that loan to you. Most of the normal day SBA loan programs are not direct government loans. But in times of disaster, this is where SBA steps in and provides direct loans to the public. Many of you are aware, and for those of you who are not, I encourage you to reach out to my office. That right after the tornado and the storms on March 3rd, there was a declaration of a disaster here in Davidson County all the way to Putnam County for those who needed relief from the tornado. And that included homeowners, renters, and businesses of all sizes, large and small, and certain nonprofits. Those loans are still available directly from SBA, and we have all SBA staff that evaluate and receive those loans. Shortly after that, COVID-19 struck us all here in America, and there was a declaration for the economic injury disaster loans that once again, Congressman Cooper mentioned, SBA provides those loans directly from SBA, accepted by SBA, evaluated by SBA, loan officers by SBA, and dispersed by SBA for COVID-19. Now, as it concerns the CARES Act, what changed? So what changed out of the CARES Act is for those COVID-19 economic injury disaster loans, there's now what's called an advance, a loan advance. You may hear it referred to as a grant. You may hear it referred to as a loan that turns into a grant. I'm SBA, I'm still going to call it a loan because that's just how we refer to it. But here's how it works. When you apply for the economic injury disaster loan, and this is directly with SBA, and you check a box that says you would like to be considered for the up to, the keywords are up to $10,000 loan advance. Whether you are approved for that economic injury disaster loan as it relates to COVID-19, whether you are declined, which we've had very few declines, for an economic injury disaster loan as it relates to COVID-19, whether you're approved for, let's say, $50,000 and you decide you don't need the 50 because you've gotten other relief, maybe you only now need 20. No matter what happens, the decline, the approve, or you take a lesser amount, up to $10,000 is forgiven. You do not have to pay it back, which is why you may hear that there is a grant. So that came immediately out of the CARES Act, and that is still available through the COVID-19 Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program that SBA provides directly. Also, what came out of the CARES Act, you heard me mention our normal 7A program. Well, through the CARES Act, that program has been expanded, twisted, turned, modified, and now we're all calling it, and we all around the nation call it the PPP, Paycheck Protection Program. This is a loan program specifically provided for retaining employees. Whether you have already had to release those employees, whether you're about to, the provisions within that say you can bring them back by June 30th, and there's other provisions in there. That loan is forgiven, which is why you also may hear it referred to as a grant. I'm still going to call it a loan because that's what they are for purposes of our regulations and processes. Now, that particular program, the Paycheck Protection Program, is offered by a bank lender, your bank lender or other lenders that you seek out to submit that application to. They work directly with SBA following our processes and procedures and using our SBA loan system. I will be completely honest with you, and you have probably heard it in the news, there have been some delays. As the Congressman mentioned, this is the largest relief package ever done in our nation's history. And this is also the largest loan program that SBA has ever overseen. Typically for our 7A loan program nationwide, we're talking about somewhere between $25 to $30 billion that our private lenders put out and SBA oversees, and they use our systems to get those loans to small businesses. It's $349 billion and about to be more money as currently being debated now in Congress. So this is unprecedented for our agency. So yes, there have been some delays. There have been some delays in lenders communicating with our SBA systems. There have been some confusion as to which lenders are providing the PPP. And we're doing everything we can right here on the ground in Tennessee to help our small businesses. And some of those delays I simply cannot control because they come out of our Washington, D.C. headquarters office. But I have staff here who's in constant communication with them, and we're doing everything possible to help get those hands into the small businesses where SBA is causing that delay. I also want to mention that also there's another program, or an expansion rather, of an existing SBA loan program that came out of the CARES Act, and it's called the SBA Express Bridge Loan. We've always had an SBA Express loan program, but now we're through the CARES Act, there is a bridge loan available where you can go to your traditional lender that you already have an existing relationship and where you can get up to $25,000 quickly, usually a fast turnaround for those. I will mention that with the PPP, your lender's probably already bogged down with handling those loans, but that is another product that did come out of the CARES Act. And then the final method of relief that came out of the CARES Act as it concerns SBA lending was a debt relief component. So if any of you out there were already had a current SBA loan, those loans that we do on a normal day, our normal 7A loans, our normal 504 loans, our normal micro loans that we do around the state, what came out of the CARES Act is that automatically SBA is paying the principal, interest, and fees of any current loans for a period of 6 months. What came out of the CARES Act, for those normal 7A loans, 504, and micro loans, is SBA is automatically paying the principal, interest, and fees of any new ones that are issued before September 27, 2020. In addition, for any SBA disaster loans that were where you were approved and it's currently being serviced before the tornado, or even those, for any disaster loan that's currently in regular servicing, SBA is automatically providing a deferment for those loan payments through December 31, 2020. And I forgot to also mention that for the COVID-19 economic injury disaster loans, those loans coming from SBA are automatically deferred for 12 months. So we have some lenders that are going to be speaking after I speak. Typically in my role, I cannot under any circumstance endorse any one lender, but I will need to let you know that the lenders who are speaking today have always been active SBA lenders. Pinnacle has been our #1 lender in the state for the past couple of years on our normal days, and Pathway Lending has been our #1 micro lender for SBA on a normal day. So you have our best lenders who are going to be speaking after me to provide you the more specifics that you need to get the relief that you need. The phone number to my office, we're taking phone calls every day to help you at any time, is between 8 and 4:30. I'm not having my people work 24 hours on the phones, although trust me, they're working up 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night on other things. The phone number to my office is 615-736-5881. Anywhere between 8 and 4:30, you can get someone on the phone. You probably can email someone at 10 o'clock at night and they'll reply. And our office address is tn@sba.gov. When you call 615-736-5881, you can press 0 and it will go into a queue and anyone will pick it up. Or you can ask for a name of any person, including my name, LaTanya Channel, or any of my staff, and it'll automatically go to their line. For our disaster loans, that phone number is 1-800-659-2955. I'll be completely honest with you. There is a bottleneck in getting some of those economic injury disaster loan funds to our small businesses. However, we now have 5,000 people staffing that customer service line 24/7, 7 days a week at 1-800-659-2955. But call my office at any time and we'll try to get you some better individual assistance whenever you need it. Thank you so much. And I'm here for questions at the end.
Thank you, LaTanya. I will have Lane Rose with Pinnacle Financial Partners.
Good afternoon, everyone. LaTanya, it's always good to hear from you. And Haley, thank you for the introduction. I did want to just highlight a few things that LaTanya and Congressman Cooper already went over, but I seem to keep getting a bunch of these questions that pop up, so I figured it can't be bad to go over that information again. So there are 2 loan programs out there that are currently in place by the SBA to handle disaster-related injuries to your business. And so that first one, LaTanya went over in detail, and that's the EIDL loan program. And that one has been in place for quite a while. And she did mention that $10,000 advance, up to $10,000. So I definitely encourage people when you're filling out that loan application to check the box that you want to get in advance, and that may help you get a check a little bit faster. You'll get an upfront advance, and then once they actually process the loan application, you'll get whatever amount you're approved for. But you can apply for up to $2 million under this program. And as Congressman Cooper mentioned, the terms are wonderful. So it's 3.75% for just a regular small business. And then even nonprofits can apply for this. And the nonprofit rate is 2.75. And And the terms can go all the way out to 30 years. And I think that's important to mention because on the PPP loans, if you do take one of those loans and it turns out to be a loan and it doesn't get forgiven, it's got to be paid back over 2 years. And so the EIDL loan program is really a better program to use for working capital expenses that will truly be a loan for your small business because of that longer term. You apply directly through the SBA, through their website. The banks are not administering this program. And let's go through to the next slide. So the EIDL funds, there's no cost to apply, and I just want to reiterate that for both programs that there's no cost to apply because I have seen lots of scams around both of these loan programs. The SBA is not going to reach out to you proactively if you have not applied for this. So if you get an email that looks like it's come from SBA encouraging you to go apply for a grant or apply for a loan, they're not going to reach out to you proactively. Now, if you've already applied, they will reach out to you to process your application, but I've seen several schemes going about where people are getting emails that look like they're from the SBA asking you to send in personal information so they can process your loan request, and you don't want to do that, or they're asking you to send them an upfront check. We've seen that as well. Send me $5,000. We'll fast track your loan with SBA. Unfortunately, right now, there is no fast track process. So I definitely encourage people to not fall victim to those scams of maybe people, trying to get a couple of $1,000s from you to say they're going to push your loan to the front of the line with SBA. But I do encourage you guys, if you go online and apply for the EIDL loan, to click the $10,000 advance, and you can get a quick check in the mail a little bit faster than the normal processing. Let's go through to the next slide. So these are the actual application forms that you use to fill out for the EIDL, and I do encourage you to kind of get this information prepared before you get online, and it'll help the process go a lot faster as you're inputting your application. You might have a personal financial statement prepared by a bank already, but when you apply for this loan, they're going to want you to use the SBA personal financial statement. So if you can already have these forms ready, that'll just speed the process along for you. They do have the option to do a paper application if you do not want to apply online, but we highly recommend filing electronically because, like LaTanya talked about, there's a bottleneck right now, and paper applications are probably falling to the bottom of that bottleneck, and the electronic ones are getting processed a lot faster. A few weeks ago when they first rolled out this system, it was a little cumbersome, took a couple of hours to apply, but now people are saying they can actually get everything done in about 15 minutes. So don't be scared of that electronic application if you've heard of people taking a couple of hours to get it done. Let's move through to the next slide and kind of get into the nuts and bolts of the Paycheck Protection Program, which is, I think, where most of my questions have been coming from these days when I get phone calls in. So this program was put in place, like Congressman Cooper talked about, as part of the CARES Act. Right now, it's at the $349 billion, but like LaTanya mentioned, there's probably another $250 that's going to be added on top of that here in the near future. So I know I hear a lot of people talking about how they're worried the money's going to run out. If you're being proactive and getting your application in now, I think that your business is going to be okay. I do feel like the money will run out at some point, but as of right now, doing pretty good. Just to kind of give you guys the numbers today. So we've had $115 billion as of this morning approved through that program. That's around $450,000 or 450,000 loan applications with about 3,800 banks participating. Just to kind of give you an idea here locally, here at Pinnacle, in just a very short Friday to kind of Monday window, we took over $1 billion in loan applications ourselves, and that was a little over 4,000 applications. So definitely high interest in the program, but as you can tell, there's still money left there for your small business to apply. So go ahead and get your loan in. These are 100% federally guaranteed, and like LaTanya mentioned, as of right now, it is a loan. The SBA is going to give us more information about the forgiveness of that loan, and so your loan may be eligible for forgiveness, but I'm encouraging everybody to go into this under the assumption that it is a loan. If you do use the loan, at least 75% of the loan for payroll costs during an 8-week window, then your loan would be eligible for forgiveness at the end of that loan. But need to kind of go into it understanding that if for some reason it doesn't qualify for the forgiveness, it is a low interest rate loan at 1% that would need to be paid back in a 2-year time window there. And there is a 6-month deferment. And so really after you get through your 6-month deferment window, you would need to pay it back over 18 months. We can go through to the next slide. So, my business eligible? That is a big question that we've been getting a lot of. And if your business has 500 or less employees, then it is eligible. And then we've had some size standard. The SBA has size standards they go by, and they define what a small business is. And they've actually waived those size standards for businesses in the restaurant and hospitality industry. So that is one of the exceptions where if you're a business that operates and you're in the hospitality or restaurant industry and you have more than 500 employees, you still potentially could be eligible for this loan. You definitely need to get with your lender to kind of talk through the specifics of your application. The next question I've been getting is exactly what's going to be required. You know, do you want me to send in my tax returns and personal financial statements like we would with a normal loan? And the answer is no. So the main thing we're going to be looking at to qualify you for this loan, it revolves around your payroll cost and coming up with what your average monthly payroll costs are and multiplying that times 2.5. And that's going to give us what your loan amount is going to be. And so the main thing we're going to be looking for is the SBA's loan application that they've put out for this program. And then we're also going to be looking for your payroll records to validate your payroll so we can come up with the correct amount that you can borrow. And so that leads into the next question I've been getting is how much is my business going to be able to borrow? And it is this loan is specifically, like Congressman Cooper talked about, it's geared at keeping people employed. So we understand that your business probably has other expenses out there and that you wanted to potentially add on top to come up with a higher loan amount, but this loan is specifically geared around payroll. So the max loan amount is calculated based off your payroll, but you can use up to 25% of the loan proceeds for additional things in your business, such as paying interest expense on mortgages, paying your lease payments, paying utilities. But make sure that you're keeping those expenses at 25% or less, and you're using at least 75% of the loan proceeds on actual payroll cost. And then that's what will be used in the end to determine if your loan will be forgiven. And we are still waiting for some guidelines from SBA is exactly what they're going to be looking for your loan to be forgiven. And we can go through to the next slide. So I know we're going to open it up to questions at the end, but one of the resources I wanted to give to everyone on the phone, we've put together a resource page at pnfp.com, our website. So if you type in the pnfp.com/SBA help, we're updating this website daily because as you know right now, this is kind of a rolling program. As we get more information and we get more guidance from SBA, we're updating our website with that guidance. So feel free to check that website often if you have questions on any of these programs. And you're always welcome to reach out to your Pinnacle banker or reach out to me directly with questions as well. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Lane. We will now have Hank Helton with Pathway Lending.
Great. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to thank the Chamber for hosting this event, and certainly like to thank our partners at the SBA. LaTanya, you and your staff are doing a phenomenal job. Kind of feel like we jumped out of the airplane before we put the parachute on a little bit. So thank you guys for all of your hard work and everything that you're doing. And I'd like to thank Lane and Pinnacle as well. Pinnacle is one of our largest private bank partners. So very excited about the opportunity to be here with you all today. So next slide, please. I can go on one more, please. So Pathway Lending is a nonprofit community development financial institution headquartered here in Nashville. Our mission is to provide lending solutions and educational services resulting in the creation, development, and growth of underserved businesses and affordable housing and sustainable communities. We do a lot of work in communities throughout the state of Tennessee and Alabama, primarily focused on 3 target markets. Next slide, please. Low-income census tracts and entrepreneurs, census tracts with high rates of poverty and unemployment, African-American-owned businesses, and women and Hispanic-owned businesses. So we've got a little over about 136 million in outstanding loans in our portfolio. We'll do about 40 to 50 million in new originations each year. And we're about the size of a small community bank, although like I said, we are a nonprofit community development financial institution certified by Treasury. So we typically do things that financial institutions can't do for a number of different reasons, most of them regulatory. Lane will appreciate that. And about 60% of our business comes from our financial institution partners and relationships that they have with clients that they just can't quite help yet. So we work with those clients and educate them on how to run their business, on how to improve their business, as well as provide them access to capital. So next slide, please. So we basically do 3 things. We have funding, education, and support. The funding piece everybody gets. We make loans. We've got a little bit bigger box, or a lot bigger box than a traditional financial institution would, particularly when it comes to things like loan-to-value ratios, debt service coverage, credit scores, historical financials versus pro forma or versus projections. So we look at things a little bit differently than a bank, but we do lend money, and we think we like to lend. We think we lend it well, and we lend a lot of it. A big piece of what we do, in addition to lending, is the education component. We have a team of advisory services staff that do nothing but work with our clients and also work with some businesses that aren't our clients, providing them with things that they need to succeed in business. And that can be a variety of things, from installing QuickBooks to helping do cash flow modeling to just in general being a consultant or an advisor. And those are all done free of charge, primarily sponsored by our relationship with SBA through the microloan program. So again, thank you, LaTanya. Another thing we do on the education side is we own and we operate a women's business center and a veterans business opportunity center, headquartered here in Nashville at our offices over on Venture Circle. Do a lot of classroom training and a lot of related types of activities there. One of the things that we've been doing during this crisis is having listening sessions with our clients and also just listening sessions in our communities in general, the target markets that we serve. We've got some very valuable information through that, and it's really been helpful in us kind of crafting our message and our mission in terms of where we are, what we're trying to do in result of this. We also offer a variety of online training classes, which is very important these days. And a lot of the things we're doing right now are focused on resiliency. What happens at the end of this, and how does your business emerge as a healthy, viable entity when all of this potentially, hopefully goes away? So I'd encourage all of you to visit our website and look at our training classes. I think they bring a lot of value to what we do in the delivery channels and the clients that we serve and the communities that we serve. So, and then we just provide support. So we like to look at ourselves as that old school community bank kind of trusted advisor. We're here to provide you with any sort of support that you need to help your small business succeed. So kind of a trifecta of an approach, but certainly an effective one, and one that we hope that you all on the line with us today will be able to benefit from. Next slide. So one of the things that we did in result of response to the tornado, actually, which was quickly eclipsed by the C-19 impacted businesses, was to launch a little rapid recovery loan program that's kind of a gap loan to help you get to that SBA money that Lane and LaTanya were talking about. So businesses that have been impacted by the tornado or C-19, loans are up to $50,000, 4% fixed interest. It's a 66-month loan. There are no payments, principal or interest, for 6 months. And then principal and interest payments begin in month 7 and amortize out over the next 60 months. There's no prepayment penalty. So if you do get one of these loans and you get an EIDL or you get a triple P loan, you can actually pay us back without any prepayment penalty. We are requiring personal guarantees, 20% or more ownership. We do require personal guarantee. We're turning these around in 3 to 5 days. We've got an expedited underwriting process. We're basically looking at 2 years worth of tax returns, and then we're spreading the numbers and qualifying people within 3 to 5 business days, and those typically fund within 2 days after that. So within 5 to 7 days, you can have access to a $50,000 loan that you don't have to pay back for 6 months. And again, like I mentioned, it can be used in conjunction with the EIDL or the PPP loans. So next slide, please. Should be the last. So contact information, our website's pretty much dedicated to resources available for tornado and C-19 impacted businesses. Our landing page is solely focused on that with links to various different resources. We do have people answering the phones, and you'll talk to a live person if you call us, which is great. And they will hopefully get you in the right direction, whether it be through a resource or to one of our lenders or to one of our training programs. And then we're always available at our email at info@pathwaylending.org. So thank you all for your time, and hopefully you have found some of this of interest, and please give us a call if we can help. That's what we're here to do.
Thank you, Hank. We are now going to go into our Q&A portion of the webinar, and we have lots of questions to ask. So I'm going to read a couple of questions that were sent to us prior to the event during the registration process, and then I will go to those questions in the chat box. The first question: some employees are making more with unemployment benefits right now than they were while working. Thus, they have no incentive to get back on my payroll. The amount of the PPP that is forgiven seems to be tied to hiring back a high percentage of employees. What am I supposed to do? So I will send this over to LaTanya, if LaTanya is unmuted.
So I'm sitting here going, wow. Many of you know I'm very direct. So under the regulation for PPP, it does provide by June 30 hiring back your employees. Now, I do not believe it specifies that you have to hire back the same employees. Lane mentioned that there are requirements that need to be followed as it concerns the amount of the loan, where you based it off of your payroll and what can be forgiven. So be mindful of that amount that you are submitting with your PPP application as to how you calculate the payroll, and then ask some very pointed questions with your banker, who probably is going to have to come back to SBA headquarters, as to, if I hire back by June 30th, is it the same amount of payroll that I had before? Is it the same amount of payroll? Does my payroll come June 30th has to be the same as the loan amount to be forgiven? I don't know the answer to that question today, and some of my dear lenders may know the answer to that question and possibly not. But for your overall question, for the fact that your employees are getting unemployment and getting more now than when they were on your payrolls, that's probably one of those times where you may want to start talking to a consultant. And I'm not trying to throw my partners under the bus, but I know the Entrepreneur Center has a group of consultants today that are ready, able to help you to make all these decisions as you navigate on how you're going to get back to the road of recovery with your business. I do know as well that on the webinar that the Chamber did last week, there were specialists there from the State Workforce Development and Unemployment Office that talked about funds available to businesses to retrain your employees that you bring back. I don't know if they're the same or different as it concerns the loan forgiveness, but I think there's a lot of things you're going to need to think through and consider, not just on the type of loan relief that you're going to be seeking, but in concert with, okay, now who am I bringing back to work for my company? Are they still going to do the same types of jobs that they did before? Am I changing my company and I need a different set of skill sets? And I do believe that, again, I know that the Entrepreneur Center has a host of free mentors that are available to help you navigate that whole conversation that you need to have with yourself and your business owners. And I don't know if that answered the question, but I hope it helps in some kind of way.
Okay. Thank you, Latanya. So here's our next question. I've applied with the bank I bank with. They keep saying they're working on the app for my business, more than one single owner. Will the money run out before they get it together, or does the bank already have something allocated? Should I be applying elsewhere? I will pitch this to Lane at Pinnacle, who can possibly make some comments about how the banks are handling this.
Yes, so every bank is handling a little different. You know, I can speak from how we're handling them at Pinnacle is, you know, they should have direct contact with whoever the banker is that they submitted it to and be able to be giving them updates on the loan application and the process. You know, it's hard to say from the other bank's perspective whether it's actually been approved with SBA or just approved with the bank itself. So I don't know if those funds have been reserved yet, but that would be a question they would need to ask their bank is, you know, has the bank just approved it, or have they actually gone into E-Tran, which is the system we use at the bank to be able to submit for the actual loan approval. And that's what actually reserves those funds from that pool of money and takes it away to where another bank, you know, couldn't use it for that purpose. So they would really just need to kind of reach out and figure out from their own bank kind of where it is in the process.
Lane is exactly right. I just did a private chat with someone who had that similar question to ask your banker, where is it with SBA? Just like Lane says, is it caught up in SBA's system, which she mentioned is E-Tran, or is it caught up waiting for a loan authorization prior to disbursement? So yes, Lane, thank you. Thanks. Yep.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Next question. How do you calculate payroll for the owner of a sole proprietorship, draws, or net income? Latanya, do you want to take that?
Do I want to take that? Will I attempt to take that? Yes. Want to take that? No. So, and Lane, I may need your help in this. I'm going to be very, very honest with you because I am not a lender. Let's be clear. My job at SBA is we provide oversight and support to our lenders in getting those loans out. I will tell you this, and this is what we have been saying to business owners who ask us that question. Within the regulation that came out as it concerns PPP, which technically is called an interim final rule, which you can easily find on SBA's page as well as Treasury's page, sba.gov/PPP, and treasury.gov page, and there's a big banner that says COVID-19. And you want to look for the interim final rule on the Payroll Protection Program. And it explicitly tells you how to calculate the payroll costs. Now, as it concerns for a sole proprietor, that question we have received probably no less than about 50 times, maybe 100 in the last week. And I don't have a clear definitive answer on that yet from my SBA headquarters. Reach out to my office, which is 615-736-5881, or even shoot me an email at latanya.channel@sba.gov, and I can see if we have a definitive answer. It's possible that my lenders might have an answer to that. Lane, I'm not sure if you've gotten an answer to that question. If it's come up to you and you've talked to our headquarters folks in our lending office.
It comes up daily. I've definitely been trying to give the best answer that we have at this time, which is that we are still waiting on further guidance from SBA, which is part of the reason the application process started last Friday for small businesses, and then for self-employed and 1099 contractors, it starts tomorrow. And the main reason for that is because SBA was really, I think, having to put some more guidance around how you do calculate payroll when people are taking owner draws, K-1 distributions, and then the 1099 income individuals. We had hoped we would have some of that today, but we don't. So I am just telling people that, you know, K-1s, those are great. That's a tax record that we can use to, for certain, document how a self-employed or how a partner would be paid through a K-1 distribution. And then if you're a 1099, obviously you need to have records of that 1099 income. I'm saying going back an average of 2 years so we can just kind of come up with what an average would have been, especially on K1, since you're only going to have one K1 statement annually. We'd probably want to go back and maybe get 2 years worth to see if historically it's been about the same to kind of come up with what the average distribution would be. But since we don't have guidance from SBA, what I'm telling everyone is that if you apply and we're using that number and that's how we come up with your payroll request, and if for some reason on the backside when we go for forgiveness, SBA does not agree with that particular calculation, it becomes a loan at that point potentially and just wouldn't be forgiven. But it is a very low interest rate loan at 1%. But there is a lot of gray area that has not been defined, and we really don't know what is going to be required yet when we go for that forgiveness, and whether or not K-1 distributions and 1099s, how those are really going to be looked at when we go through that process. But I do feel like those are valid forms of kind of documenting what somebody historically has taken as payroll as a self-employed or a partnership, as far as how they distribute out the income at the end of the day. But one thing to remember is that regardless, the SBA has said it's capped at 100,000. So, you know, if you take a K-1 distribution of 300,000, obviously we're only going to be capping it at 100,000. And that's been very evident across the board in all of the SBA documentation. So make sure that when you are signing, so part of the loan closing is you're going to have to sign and certify that you have backed out the appropriate numbers of anything over 100,000, and you're certifying that you're giving us true and accurate documents as to that payroll income. That onus is going to be on you guys when it comes back at the end for forgiveness. And so if SBA is disagreeing with that in one way, shape, or form, you know, we're making that small business owner sign and certify that they understand that that risk is on them as the business owner of providing that proper documentation as to those payroll expenses.
Okay, thank you. One more question. It is my understanding 75% has to be used towards payroll and 25% can be used towards rent and utilities as long as the lease was in place by 2/15/20, so February 15th of 2020. Our office was destroyed in the tornado, which requires us to relocate. Will this disqualify us from using these dollars towards our lease payment?
This is LaTanya. I'm going to say probably not, simply because of the issue of the tornado. And honestly, I need to look back at the rule on how you calculate the payments. I know for the calculation of employees, you have two different ways of doing it. Why don't you please reach out to me personally on that, latanya.channel@sba.gov. and we'll help you navigate that. And I also want to make sure that you have also sought out the other loan programs that are available from the tornado as well. The disaster loan, since your office was destroyed, that's a product available directly from SBA as well. So we probably need to help you navigate that specifically. I think it was Kelly on here. I'm going to put my email address in the chat. Actually, I'm going to put my email address to Kelly so she can get to me quickly because my email box is crazy full right now. But it is LaTanya, you know, I've already given it out, so it doesn't really matter. I'll put it into everyone. So Kelly, when you email me, make sure you put in the subject line tornado, and then I'll get to that quickly because we do need to help you answer that question.
Okay, thank you. So we also have a question around status, and this is probably going to be our last question. It says, I've applied for the PPP several days ago and have not heard from anyone. Is there a way to look up the status?
Contact that bank to look up the status. I've gotten that question a lot for EIDL and for PPP. So the PPP, you apply directly with the bank and you just need to contact your bank to get the updated status. And then on the EIDL loan, like LaTanya said, no, it is taking them a couple of weeks to process those right now, but somebody from SBA will contact them directly to help keep them updated on the status of that.
Thank you, Lane. At this point, we will be wrapping up our questions, but I do want to offer an opportunity for Congressman Cooper to give any final thoughts that he would like to share, and then I will turn it over to Stephanie Coleman, Vice President of the Growth Team here at the National Chamber, for any final remarks.
Thank you very much. This has been a very informative webinar. I want to thank all the participants. This is a scary and historic time for our country, but together we'll get through it. The main thing is for people to pull together and give our neighbors and friends the benefit of the doubt and keep on social distancing, because that's done more than anything to curb the spread of the virus. So thank you, and let's keep on making Tennessee and Nashville proud.
Thank you so much, Congressman Cooper, and thanks to everyone who has joined us today, taking the time. Especially thanks to our co-hosts and presenters, the Nashville Entrepreneur Center U.S. Congressman Jim Cooper's office, the Nashville Mayor's office, Pathway Lending, Pinnacle Financial Partners, and the U.S. Small Business Administration. Today's webinar was also streaming live on Facebook, so you can find the recording there on the Nashville Chamber's Facebook page. And we will also have the recording posted on our website at nashvillechamber.com/webinars. If there are other topics you would like to hear more about to help you manage through this challenging time, email smallbusiness@nashvillechamber.com. And with that, that is all we have for today. Hope everybody has a wonderful afternoon.
Great. Thank you.